चलिए ये वाला पेपर खा रहे हैं, ठीक है।
ठीक है।
1 second. So first question. What's the answer to the first question? Gas is released at point P. So एक तो indicator paper has to turn, which turns indicator paper red most quickly. तो indicator paper red कौन करता है? Is it going to be an acidic gas or a basic gas?
Acidic gas.
ठीक है, so it's an acidic gas, right? So uh,
It'll be C, hydrogen chloride.
it's between these two, right?
Yeah.
Because these two are acidic, right? If you, well, this one forms sulfurous acid. If you add water to it, it's going to form
Sulfuric acid.
sulfurous acid, right? Ammonia is
Yes.
the base. You can remember that. Ammonia is a base. Cl2 bleaches it. It makes it colorless. That's the test for Cl2. So it's between
Right.
HCl and which one is the lighter one that's going to be?
Hydrochloric acid.
Okay, so that gas.
Hydrogen.
So this is not the acid. Acid is when it's dissolved in water, right? When it's
Yeah.
just just a gas, then it's called hydrogen chloride. Okay. So this one is lighter, so it travels faster. That's the next one. A mixture of colorless compounds is separated using chromatography. What type of reagent is used to detect these colorless compounds? And you're doing chromatography, right? So how do you detect these compounds after separation has happened? क्या होगा वो chromatography, right? The compounds are colorless. You're doing chromatography.
Yeah.
तो क्या करोगे? You can't see the colorless compounds, right? So how do you make them colored? उसका है locating agent, ठीक है? Is that clear? Something clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
ठीक है, so you add a locating agent. That's the next one. Which statement of paper chromatography is correct? A solvent is needed to मतलब ये देख लो इसमें से which one is going to be correct? Anyone? मरवा क्या होगा?
For this one, it is D.
ठीक है, so this one is D, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want the baseline to mix with the water, ठीक है, while you're doing chromatography. So next one, element X has 7 protons, element Y has 8 more protons, ठीक है, तो उसके पास कितने protons हो गए? That's going to be 15, right? Is that clear? तो which statement about element Y is correct? तो उसके पास 7 protons है. If you have a periodic table, 7 or 15 protons, right? So 7 protons come, it's this one, it's nitrogen, right? And 15 protons is in the same group, and that's phosphorus, right? तो कौन सा स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है? And remember, these two are right next to each other.
Yeah.
Shadja, which one is correct? Shadja, are you there? Hello. Someone,
Is it A?
keep your mics on, ठीक है? उनको off
Okay.
ना करो.
Yes.
अच्छा, it is A because obviously it's got more shells, ठीक है? Down the group, your shells increase, ठीक है? So you've got 7 protons, you've got 15 protons, so phosphorus definitely has more shells, ठीक है? So that's the correct option. A molecule Q contains only 6 shared electrons. So there's a molecule that's got 6 shared electrons. So which one is this molecule that has 6 shared electrons? Means that it's making 3 bonds, right? So कौन सा वाला correct है? Who's making 3 bonds? That is obviously NH3, right? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
ठीक है. बाकी सारों में they're not making 3 bonds. CH4 is making 4 bonds. So that's 8 shared electrons. Water में oxygen is making 2 bonds. Cl is making just 1 bond. As a next question, you've got information about 4 substances, E, F, G, and H. So the 4 substances, the graphite, polyethylene, sorry, sodium chloride,
Yeah.
and silicon peroxide, but not in that order. What are EF? So which one is graphite? Which one do you think is graphite?
Graphite. F. Wait. One sec.
Will it conduct electricity?
Yeah, it will. Wait,
So
graphites don't wait, they do, they do.
the graphite obviously does. It's a very good conductor,
Yeah.
obviously. और उसका melting point क्या होता है? It's a giant covalent structure, right? So it's going to have a very, very high melting
Mm-hmm.
point. So F is the one that's going to be graphite, right? Is that clear?
Yeah. Yes.
It's either B and D. Acha,
It's
which one is
sometimes
which
you
one,
make it.
which one is sodium chloride? NaCl. Is
Yes.
it is it ionic or covalent?
It's covalent.
क्या हो गया? Na is a metal. It's group one. It's plus one.
Wait.
Ionic.
Ionic, yeah, ionic.
हाँ तो बताओ कि what's the property of ionic compounds?
Ionic compounds, like
They form
they
giant
have
ionic
a high
lattices.
melting point and they're giant ionic lattices. And
Okay, so they form giant ionic lattice where there's a strong attraction between
yeah,
positive and negative ions,
yes,
which is why they have high melting and boiling points. Do they conduct electricity?
They do.
They do.
yeah.
They conduct when they are, but not in solid state, in molten or aqueous state, right? So it's going to be H. H is the one that's going to be ionic. It's going to be NaCl. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
the only option left is D then. The first one is silicon oxide, and this is your polymer, does not conduct. That's polythene. That's your plastic bags. Okay, so that's going to be G. E and G were harder to identify, but you were able to identify graphite and sodium chloride. Next one is chemical compounds formed from a group 1 element and a group 7 element contain ionic bonds. How are the ionic bonds formed? When you have a group 1 element and a group 7 element, which one is the correct option? Chandra, कौन सा option? Mic on रखो, please.
D.
ठीक है, that's going to be, ठीक है,
Yeah.
group 1 is going to lose an electron. Electrons, ऐसा उसने हर जगह electrons use किए. Just one electron, by the way. ठीक है. अच्छा, next one. Some information about PQRNS as shown. Which two particles are isotopes of the same element? इनमें से which ones are isotopes?
Um, for this one,
What is the only thing that's different between isotopes?
the neutron number. Wait, no. The
Concept? I mean, neutrons are the only thing that are going to be different, right?
they
Yeah.
have they have the same number of
And the
no.
nuclear number is also different because
Yes.
the nuclear number is the proton plus neutron, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the number of neutrons are going to be different, and the electrons are probably going to be the same, right? Because
Is it C?
C concept, that's Q and R, right? Yeah, but that's this one. Why can't it be any other? Because I said they didn't tell us about the I said they did tell us about the protons as well, right? But
I just did it because the number of neutrons and the number of electrons, they don't add up. Like 12 plus 10 is 22. And here it says the nuclear number is 24.
yeah, so the thing is that it's a slightly more tricky question because remember, an isotope has the same proton numbers and it's got the same, it's
Mm-hmm.
got different neutron numbers, right? Or nuclear numbers.
Yeah.
Now, the proton number is not given, right? But the proton number has to be same. That's another condition, right? It's not only is the neutron going to be different, the protons have to be the same as well, right? So can
Yeah.
you calculate the number of protons in any one of them? Like, do you know how many protons the first one has?
6.
6, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got 12, that's the proton plus neutron, and you've got the neutron number, so it's going to be 6 protons, right? What
Yeah.
about the second one? How many protons the second one's got?
12.
It's got 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how many protons in the next one? That's going to be 8.
8.
Yeah, 8.
And how many protons in the last one? That's going to be 6.
6.
6.
So that means the same elements are the ones are P and are these
S.
ones. So they are P and S, right? Because their
Yeah.
protons are exactly the same, but their neutrons
Okay.
are
Different.
different, right? So कौन सा answer P and S? That's going to be B, right?
B.
So
Yeah.
clear again.
Yeah.
Actually, next one is chlorine gas will react with iron and metal, and so it's reacting with iron and metal. Exactly. So they've given the amount of iron and the amount of chlorine.
Yes.
So you have to figure out the ratio. So it's iron metal reacting with chlorine. We don't know what the ratio is, right? But we can figure out the moles. Can you figure the moles? How do you find moles? It's mass divided by molar mass,
Equal.
right?
Yes.
So the molar mass for chlorine is 35.5 plus 35.5, so that's 71. Can you tell me what the moles are? Or iron ki bhi nikalo, it's going to be 11.2. That's the mass divided by MR. What's the AR of iron? That's okay, that's 56, right?
Yes.
These are दोनों के moles बताओ ना क्या आ रहे हैं.
For chlorine, 0.3.
अच्छा, so 0.3. Exactly 0.3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then iron, 0.2.
Iron is 0.2, right? So that means the mole ratio is 2:3, right?
Yeah.
So that's the ratio at which they're reacting, right? So if you have 30 molecules, according to the ratio, how many molecules of iron are you going to have? So it's 3:2, right? So it's going to be 20 molecules, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So with these 30 ke saath, it's going to be this much that are going to be reacting. I said next one is now this is about electrolysis. Electricity was passed through concentrated aqueous NaCl and led to bromide, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would happen? Now the first one is aqueous. So I'm just going to draw the cathode and anode. अब ये बताओ जल्दी से aqueous NaCl. So it's going to have what? Na+1 and Cl-1, and it's going to have
And H positive and
H
OH.
plus, OH minus.
yeah. Who's going to gain electrons?
Uh, hydrogen.
Okay, so hydrogen is the one that gains electrons, and who's going to lose electrons? Remember, it's concentrated.
Chloride.
Yep.
Chlorine.
Okay. So that's the one that's going to. It is chloride. The negative ion is called
Yeah,
chloride.
chloride.
It will
Okay,
turn into
chloride.
chlorine. Okay. Actually, so this is the one that's going to lose electrons. So that, I mean, we can write the equations, but I don't think that's necessary. What about molten? What is molten lead 2 bromide? So that means you got lead plus 2 because it said lead 2, right? Bromine is group 7, so that's bromide is -1, right? And it's molten, so that means there is no H plus 1, there is no OH ion. So you don't really have a choice. On this side, it's going to be lead that gains electrons. On the other side, it's going to be bromide that loses electrons, right? अब बताओ answer करो. Which one is the correct option? Yeah, it's very obvious. What's the
I think it is, wait, cathode. Cathode is the one which is positive, right? Which attracts the
yeah?
negative. At the cathode, sodium will form.
Sodium will not form.
I think it's A. I think A.
Yeah, it's A. It's
Yeah,
A.
it's A. In both cases, you're getting a halogen. You have to balance this equation. Can you try and balance this? One of them is fixed, like 6. You start with this, right?
Um,
Because this is fixed at 6.
so X is gonna be 2. X is gonna be 2.
Hey, how many H's do you have? You've got how many? 12?
Oh, yeah, 12.
Well,
Whoops.
So what do I
So
multiply?
4. So X is 4.
So X is gonna be 4, right? So X is so that's T, right? Forget the rest. T gets
Mhm.
X is gonna be 4. That's 12 H's. You need
Yeah.
12 H's over here. T gets so that's it. So you've got a reaction. He says 4 different fuels. Fuels are being burnt, right? I
Mhm.
used to heat a beaker of water for the same amount of time using the apparatus shown. I said the initial temperature of the water and the temperature after heating. So he's burning fuels, the same amount of fuels for the same, not the amount, but for the same amount of time, right? So he
Mhm.
says that the initial temperature of the water and the temperature after heating by the fuel are recorded. Which fuel releases the most heat energy? Well, obviously, कौन सा fuel ज़्यादा heat energy produce करेगा जिसका which has the maximum temperature rise, right?
Yeah.
So which one has the maximum initial temperature, final temperature, right? So which one has the maximum temperature rise?
Um,
C.
कौन सा?
C. It's
Confirm it.
35. The difference
So,
is 35.
so ठीक है, see. As the next one, I think that's rate of reaction. So there's a carbonate reacting with hydrochloric acid. मतलब क्या equation होती है just for the sake of what happens when a carbonate reacts with an acid? What is going to be produced?
Calcium chloride plus carbon dioxide plus water.
plus hydrogen. Yeah. Whoops,
You get
sorry.
water plus carbon dioxide. So you can,
Yeah.
this was +2 and this was -1. So CaCl2, right? And you can
Yeah.
balance it. This is going to be 2. Achha, forget that. He's saying that he's measuring the volume of carbon dioxide. The
Yeah.
volume of carbon dioxide produced is measured at regular time intervals. The results are shown in experiment 1. And then he does another experiment, and the results are shown in experiment number 2. So one change. So there's one change happening. So he's saying which change is made in experiment number 2. So पहले तो बताओ कि if you look at experiment number 2, is it faster or is it slower?
Faster.
Faster.
Are you sure? Because if it had been faster, it should have a greater gradient, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the initial slope. That's both of them are exactly the same. If it was faster, then it would have been something like this, right? Is
Yeah.
that clear?
Yes.
Got it.
So, I mean, because I mean, the only thing is that experiment number two produces more carbon dioxide. That's the only thing. It just goes higher up, right? That's the only difference. Otherwise, the gradient, at least, I mean, this one dies down, right? Experiment number one stops much quicker. Experiment number two takes a lot longer and produces a lot more carbon dioxide. The speed is exactly the same, right?
Yes.
Yes.
तो पहला तो नहीं हो सकता because if you increase concentration, the speed would increase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not the option, right? Because the speed has to be the same.
Yeah.
Um, if they increase the volume of acid, will you get more carbon dioxide?
Mm,
मतलब HCl की amount ज़्यादा कर दो ना.
yeah, I
So
think, yeah.
Yes.
ठीक है. And he had mentioned that this was in excess, right?
Yeah.
तो excess का मतलब है कि they had already added too much of it, more than the required amount. So if you add more HCl, then the more of calcium carbonate would react. Do you get the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
ठीक है. C नहीं हो सकता. Why? Because I mean both B and C are similar, but it can't be C क्योंकि अगर वो calcium carbonate, if he because HCl is the limiting reagent, right?
Yeah.
HCl कम डाला हुआ है, quantity कम है. That's why not all of the calcium carbonate can react. So even if you add more calcium carbonate, it will still not be able to react and produce carbon dioxide because the HCl is the thing that's limiting it. He had already told us that calcium carbonate is the one that's in excess. So the HCl was already getting used up completely. It was calcium carbonate that was, you added too much of it. So even if you further increase the amount of calcium carbonate, the amount of carbon dioxide will not increase because that will still not be able to react completely. Okay. So ये clear है? Is this clear?
Yes.
अच्छा पाउडर नहीं हो सकता पाउडर से स्पीड चेंज हो जाएगी so that अच्छा when sulfur is heated undergoes a dash change as it melts. अच्छा सल्फर को जब हीट करते हैं and it melts, is it a chemical change or a physical change?
Physical.
ठीक है. So now he says that the sulfur changes to form sulfur dioxide.
Physical. I mean chemical.
So that's a chemical reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be C. Chapter 15. Four statements about the effect of increasing temperature on reaction are shown. So activation energy becomes lower. When does the activation energy change for any reaction? Who changes the activation energy?
Punctuation energy.
Catalyst.
Hmm.
I'm probably wrong.
ठीक है. Catalyst is the only thing that changes the activation energy,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it's got nothing to do with temperature, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's energy that is needed to start a reaction. So that's the minimum energy that is needed to start a reaction. So catalyst just makes it easy or lowers the activation energy. So temperature को उससे कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है. अच्छा, if you increase temperature, do the particles move faster?
Yes.
ठीक है, they've got more kinetic energy.
Yeah.
Do they have more collisions per second?
Yes.
Because they're traveling faster, so they're going to bump into each other a lot more. I said there are more collisions which have greater energy than the activation energy.
Mm-hmm.
या सिंपल बता दो कि there are more collisions with greater energy. Temperature ज़्यादा होगा. Will the particles have more energy?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
नहीं.
Wait. I don't
हाँ
know.
मतलब temperature के ज़्यादा करोगे तो particles are going to have more energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
तो उनकी जो collisions होंगी they're going to be more energetic, right? So this is correct.
So it's C.
तो C है.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the the fourth point.
See, you've got collisions happening, right? The thing that we did was इसी के अंदर था हाँ एक second. Where's the part where we did pollutants? ये वाला part ना? See, I told you that you have two things happening, right? When you talk about rate, you talk about the frequency of collisions. एक second. As I talked about frequency of collisions, that's how many times they're bumping into each other, right? And the effectiveness of the collisions, that means how effectively are they colliding with each other, right? So the particles could be bumping into each other, but they probably don't have a lot of energy, so they're not going to be very effective, right?
Yes.
So temperature क्या करता है? Because you've got more kinetic energy, the particles are traveling faster. तो frequency ज़्यादा हो जाएगी. They're going to bump into each other a lot more, ठीक है?
Yeah.
लेकिन because it's not just the frequency, it's also the effectiveness. Because they're more energetic, तो वो जो bump करे ना एक दूसरे का ना, they're going to bump into each other with a lot more force, ठीक है? And they'll
Okay.
have more. तो temperature क्या करता है? It increases both the frequency and the effectiveness of the collisions, right?
Yeah.
तो temperature does both. So this means that there are more collisions which have greater energy. But obviously the energy would be greater now, right? Because the temperature is higher. Is that clear?
Yeah, I got it.
Yes.
Or then the accretion energy, that's the relative comparison. क्योंकि वो वैसे ही compare कर रहा है उसके साथ. But they're obviously going to have greater energy, right? अच्छा इसमें which one is the who's getting reduced, who's getting oxidized? Zinc को क्या हुआ है? Lost electrons, gain electrons.
Gains.
Gain of electrons.
So it's
नहीं,
reduction.
oxidation है भाई, क्या हो
I
गया?
mean, sorry, yeah, it's loss of electrons. It becomes positive too.
Remember this, charge increases, so that means you're losing electrons.
Mhm.
ठीक है, charge decreases, मतलब negative side पे, that means you're gaining electrons, right?
Yep.
So zinc is getting oxidized, ठीक है? और copper का charge जो कम हो रहा है, 2 plus है ना, it's getting 0, so that's getting reduced. So the one that's getting oxidized is the reducing agent, उनके नाम उल्टे होते हैं, ठीक है? So zinc is the reducing agent. Is that clear?
Yes.
Or D होगा. Why is it the reducing agent? Because it reduces copper. ठीक है?
Mm-hmm.
But although it is getting oxidized, and this is the one that's getting reduced, लेकिन इनके नाम उल्टे इसलिए थे कि this is called the reducing agent. Why? Because it's reducing the other one. ठीक है?
Mm-hmm.
अच्छा, equilibrium का आ गया. What changes? So there's an equilibrium reaction. Which changes cause the white precipitate to dissolve? White precipitate. It's this one. उसने कहा है Bi. A white precipitate of BiOCl is formed. ठीक है? So that's your white precipitate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he's saying is कि इसको dissolve करना है. Basically, इसको backward shift करना है. You want the white precipitate to disappear, right? So you want the equilibrium to go backwards. अब बताओ एसिड डालोगे तो इक्विलिब्रियम किधर शिफ्ट होगा? Where's the acid in this? There's HCl, right, on the right side.
Yes.
So what does the equilibrium do? What are the rules for equilibrium? ठीक है, equilibrium के वो 2-3 rules थे. What were they? उसको रिवाइज कर लेते हैं. कहाँ गया equilibrium? ये सारे blue में. If you increase or decrease concentration, then equilibrium does the opposite. ठीक है? तो अगर मैं HCl ज्यादा करूंगा, what would the equilibrium do? It will try to decrease it, right? तो decrease किस तरह करेगा? It's going to send it backwards. तो ठीक है, adding an acid would work. अच्छा ये clear है first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
अच्छा adding water add करोगे तो water क्या करेगा? You add water तो equilibrium में opposite करना है. It's going to decrease water. तो वो where would it send the water? It's going to send it in the forward direction.
Mm-hmm.
तो ये गलत हो गया, ठीक है? So adding water would not help. It will actually make more of the press plate, right? Is that clear?
Yes.
Or adding NaCl, what will that do? NaCl कुछ करेगा? NaCl is not doing anything over here. इस पूरी चीज में there is no NaCl,
Yeah,
right?
there is.
तो इसका मतलब NaCl तो कुछ भी नहीं करेगा. It's not, yeah, it's adding NaCl. नहीं, NaCl कुछ कर सकता है. Like, what ions are produced when you add NaCl? NaCl में कौन सा ions होता है?
Na and Cl.
ठीक है, और वो aqueous होता है ना, so it's soluble, right? So they dissociate in water. So if you add NaCl, what will happen is कि Cl ions क्या हो जाएंगे? ज्यादा हो जाएंगे,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
तो इक्विलिब्रियम क्या करेगा? उसको कम करेगा, तो it's going to send it
Backward.
backwards, ठीक है? मतलब Cl ions को backward shift कर देगा, ठीक है? So that will also help. फिर वो आपका, तो it's going to be 1 and 3, right? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
So अगला, element X forms an oxide XO that neutralizes sulfuric acid. अच्छा, so there's an oxide और वो सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड के साथ रिएक्ट कर रहा है. मुझे तो कौन से एलिमेंट के ऑक्साइड, इज इट गोइंग टू बी अ मेटल ऑक्साइड और अ नॉन मेटल ऑक्साइड? कौन एसिड,
You have any long
Metal oxide. Wait.
मतलब एसिड के साथ कौन सी रिएक्शंस है?
Wait, this is gonna be a metal oxide.
ठीक है, बेस होता है मेटल ऑक्साइड एंड मेटल हाइड्रोक्साइड, दे रिएक्ट विद एसिड्स एंड दे प्रोड्यूस व्हाट? सॉल्ट एंड
Water.
वाटर, राइट?
Mm-hmm.
तो और द बेसिक ऑक्साइड्स, राइट? सो इट्स गोइंग टू बी नॉन मेटल ऑक्साइड्स आर एसिडिक, ठीक है? अच्छा, नेक्स्ट वन, इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द सॉल्बिलिटी ऑफ सॉल्ट्स. यू हैव टू रिमेंबर क्लोराइड्स का क्या था, उसने दिया हुआ है वैसे. ऑल सॉल्युबल एक्सेप्ट फॉर lead and silver. Nitrates, all of them are soluble. Sulfates, all of them are soluble except for barium and lead. हमने तो 3-4 और लिखे हुए थे ना, कि कैल्शियम एंड स्ट्रोंशियम एंड एक और भी था शायद, silver sulfate, that was also. अच्छा, anyways, aqueous solution of which two compound would produce a precipitate when added together? So which one would form precipitates? ये बताओ, ये दोनों are they soluble? The first two.
The first two calcium.
Nitrate. Nitrate है ना, तो nitrate क्या होता है?
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is soluble, right? Chlorides का क्या है? कि they're also all soluble, right? तो ये दोनों क्या
Yeah.
है? They're both soluble, right?
Yeah.
तो
Yeah.
ionic precipitation कब होती थी? Ionic precipitation होती थी कि if something is soluble, they would dissociate in water and they're going to mix up, ठीक है? मतलब उसके ions जो है ना, वो पानी में अलग अलग घूम रहे होंगे, ठीक है? Barium ions, nitrate ions, calcium ions and Cl ions, they're all roaming around. Mirza, do any of the two ions combine to form something that's insoluble? मतलब क्या बन सकता है? Barium ions could combine with Cl ions.
Yeah.
वो क्या बनेगा? बैरियम क्लोराइड. लेकिन वो क्या है? सॉलेबल है, ठीक है? ऑल सॉलेबल, तो वो वापस डिसॉल्व हो जाएगा. कैल्शियम कुड कंबाइन विद नाइट्रेट, तो नाइट्रेट्स क्या होते हैं? देयर आल्सो वेरी ऑल सॉलेबल. तो इसका मतलब है नो अदर कॉम्बिनेशन इज रिजल्टिंग इन समथिंग दैट्स इनसॉल्युबल, राइट? सो इस केस में कुछ भी नहीं होगा, ठीक है? इज दैट क्लियर?
Yeah.
Yes.
अगला वाला, आयनिक प्रेसिपिटेशन. सो यू गॉट कॉपर सल्फेट. कॉपर सल्फेट क्या है? सल्फेट्स उसने लिखा हुआ है कि देयर ऑल सॉल्युबल एक्सेप्ट फॉर दीस टू, सो दैट्स सॉल्युबल. वैसे भी पता होना चाहिए, कॉपर सल्फेट इलेक्ट्रोलिसिस में आता है बहुत दफा, तो that is soluble, right? So पानी में the ions would, in water the ions would dissociate. Zinc nitrate, nitrate आ गया ना, so nitrate is also soluble. So zinc is +2 NO3s. अच्छा, दोबारा से, all these four ions are now mixed in water and they're roaming around. So are they going to form something that's insoluble? Zinc can combine with sulfate, but that is soluble. Sulfates are all soluble.
Um,
Copper
Mhm.
could combine with nitrate, but nitrates are all soluble. तो इसमें भी कुछ नहीं बन रहा, ठीक है? They're not forming something that's insoluble.
mhm.
खैर वो मैं सारों का डिसोसिएट नहीं कर रहा, इसमें कोई insoluble बनेगा. This is soluble and this is also soluble. So Na ions could combine with Cl ions. That would form NaCl, लेकिन that's soluble. Potassium ions could combine with sulfates, but sulfates are also all. इसमें भी कुछ नहीं बन रहा. Last रह गया, इसमें कोई insoluble चीज
Yeah,
बन.
it has lead. It has
Yes,
lead.
lead sulfate.
ठीक है,
Yeah,
तो
to
दोनों
make lead
soluble है, तो
sulfate.
ions mix up हो जाएंगे, and the lead ions can combine with sulfate and they would form something that is not soluble, ठीक है?
Yeah,
और पीछे पानी में क्या रह जाएगा? It's going to be MgNO3, right?
yeah.
Mg plus 2 NO3 minus 1. But that would remain in the solution because nitrates are all
Soluble.
soluble. So those ions would still be roaming around in water, but this thing would form a precipitate, right? तो ionic precipitation जो salt preparation का तरीका था ना, उसमें ये होता था, you would form insoluble salts. That was a method for forming insoluble salts. And how would you form? You would think of two compounds, one containing lead ions and the other containing sulfate ions, ठीक है? And you made sure that they were soluble. उनको जब mix करोगे ना तो lead sulfate बच जाएगा, ठीक है?
Mm-hmm.
अच्छा, ये bond ये calculate करो ना, bonds broken plus है और bonds formed, that's all minus, ठीक है? Try and find the answer to this.
When you get your answer, if it's minus, is it end? It's endo, right?
Minus means exo.
Oh, minus means exo, so it's C.
देख लेते हैं क्या किया था इसमें 436 into 2, right?
Yeah.
Plus 495. And how many bonds were OH
It's
के
C.
कितने?
It's
And then
C.
2 times 463 plus 463.
Times 4 हो गया ना?
Yeah.
So that's an OH bond. That's another OH bond. Or two molecules, and that means 4 OH bonds, right?
Oh,
So ये रहता C आया था, you got C for this.
Mm-hmm.
अच्छा, burning fossil fuels releases sulfur dioxide, which leads to acid rain. Which ion in the rainwater causes it to acid? Acid अगर कोई चीज होती है तो it's because of which ion?
Acidic rain. It's because of sulfur.
The acid की definition क्या होती है? What's the definition of an acid?
proton
It's
donor.
yeah.
Proton क्या होता है? That's an H plus 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's acidic is because of H plus 1. और जितने भी acid होते हैं उसमें common क्या होता है? They all have H plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है, nitric acid. तो सारों में there is H plus 1, ठीक है? Which statement about the trends shown by the elements of period 3 in the periodic table is not correct? Period 3 के जो trends हैं. Less metallic across the period. Do they become left to right जा रहे हैं? Do they become less metallic?
Yes.
ठीक है. ये non-metals and these are metals, ठीक है? So that's true. तो ठीक है, the first one is correct. नहीं, उससे कहता is not correct. पहला तो correct है. Second one. The group number increases across the period.
Yeah.
Okay, that's also correct. The number of electron shells increases across the period. So when you move across the period, do the number of shells increase?
Yes.
Yeah.
नहीं, shells नहीं increase नहीं होता.
Or no, it doesn't.
Valence electrons increase होते हैं. Shells remain exactly the same. This is
Same.
281. This is 282. This is 2, 8, and 3. 14 का मतलब है 284. So they all have 3 shells. So all of them have 3 shells. So
Okay.
that's the one that's incorrect. ठीक है. Outer electrons increase करता है. ठीक है.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next one. You've got the diagram shows the position of elements. Position of elements. So which statement about the elements E, F, G, and H are correct? E has a higher density than F. Now the group 1 में क्या होता है? Density को क्या होता है?
Increases.
ठीक है. और second melting points क्या होते हैं now the group?
Increases.
नहीं, melting points
Decreases.
Sorry, decrease.
decreases करते हैं. ठीक है.
Mm-hmm.
अच्छा, तो पहले दोनों दूसरा गलत है ना फिर?
Is it D? Is it D?
नहीं, दूसरा ठीक है. E has a higher melting point, yeah. E has a higher density, वो गलत है.
Mm-hmm.
Density जो है वो increase करती है ना down the group.
Yeah, but like the color weight,
G has a darker color than H. इसके colors क्या होते हैं halogens के? They increase
they
down the group.
decrease, they become darker down the group.
Yeah, they become darker, right?
Yeah.
So they become darker.
So it's wrong.
अच्छा, they become darker. And G has a lower boiling point than. नहीं, ये ठीक है. G has a darker color than H. ये गलत है ना?
Yeah,
Mm.
it's wrong.
So it's D.
अच्छा, G has a lower boiling point than H. हाँ, boiling point increase करते हैं. The top ones are gases. मतलब यहाँ fluorine gas होता है. Chlorine is also a gas. Bromine is a liquid and iodine is a solid. ठीक है. तो colors वो melting points जो है वो increase करते हैं down the group. So G is going to have. तो ये ठीक है. तो क्या 2 and 4. अच्छा, next one. Iodine is added to a solution of vanadium ions. Iodine, ठीक है. Aqueous iodine. Which property? वो कह रहे V2 plus ions each lose 1 electron. चलो ठीक है, they all lose 1 electron जब iodine के साथ होता है. Which property of transition elements is shown by this reaction? 5 properties होती हैं transition metals की. मुझे पांचों बता दो. What are the 5 properties of transition metals?
They're colorful.
Colored compounds, ठीक है.
Yeah. And they're ionic, I think, too.
नहीं, नॉन मेटल्स का तो आयनिक क्यों होंगे? मेल्टिंग एंड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट्स क्या होते हैं उनके?
High melting and boiling point.
Yeah, high.
डेंसिटीज क्या होती हैं? डेंसिटीज
High.
High.
वो भी हाई होती हैं. अच्छा, फिर ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट्स.
High? I don't.
वेरिएबल
So
ऑक्सीडेशन स्टेट.
they have variable oxidation states.
और फिर ये कि और फिर लास्ट ये कि द वेरी गुड कैटलिस्ट. ठीक है. तो इससे क्या पता लग रहा है? V2 plus ions lose 1 electron, so that means they are forming V3 plus ions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of indicates that it's got variable oxidation states.
Yes.
As a piece of aluminium is dropped into hydrochloric acid, no immediate reaction is observed. Which statement? Aluminium will react with HCl, ठीक है, but not immediately. Metal plus acid will produce salt, AlCl3.
Water.
Ne plus H2. Metal plus acid produces H2.
Is it D?
हाँ, aluminium क्यों नहीं react करता? That's D is correct because aluminum is covered with an unreactive oxide layer. ठीक है.
Yes.
तो पहले उसके टॉप से ना वो लेयर उतरेगी, उसके बाद it will start reacting. ठीक है. वाटर के साथ it doesn't even react. लेकिन एसिड के साथ the layer has to dissolve and then it will start reacting. ठीक है. So always remember कि aluminum initially unreactive होता है because of the top layer. As a some metal nitrates and carbonates decompose when heated strongly. Metal Q has a nitrate that decomposes to give a salt and colorless gas. Only the carbonate of metal Q does not decompose when heated with a Bunsen burner. What is metal Q? अच्छा, ये शो ये कर रहा है कि it does not decompose, right? So if it does not decompose, so is it a reactive metal or an unreactive metal?
Unreactive.
नहीं, unreactive metal ये एक सेकंड, तो ये तो वो है, मेटल वाले नोट्स भी साथ खोल लेता हूँ, ठीक है।
Mhm.
रिमेंबर, रिएक्टिव मेटल के जो कंपाउंड्स होते हैं दे आर हार्डर टू डीकंपोज, ठीक है। ये
Okay.
यहाँ पे बिल्कुल एंड पे होगा, ठीक है। रिमेंबर, कार्बोनेट्स decompose to form metal oxide plus carbon dioxide. Metal nitrate decomposes to form metal oxide plus NO2 plus O2. ग्रुप वन के जो नाइट्रेट्स होते हैं वो फुली डिकम्पोज नहीं होते, ठीक है। वो जो बात कर रहे हैं ना, नॉर्मल नाइट्रेट्स दे फुली डिकम्पोज फॉर्मिंग NO2 and O2, पर ग्रुप वन नाइट्रेट्स दे वेरी हार्ड टू डिकम्पोज, सिर्फ एक ऑक्सीजन बीच में से निकलता है। And metal hydroxides, they form oxides and water, ठीक है। So remember, reactive metals are harder to decompose and require a much higher temperature, ठीक है। तो इसका जो कार्बोनेट है ना, इस वाले का, it's not decomposing, does not decompose when heated with a Bunsen burner. तो ये क्या इंडिकेट कर रहा है? इंडिकेट कर रहा है इट्स अ वेरी रिएक्टिव मेटल, मतलब उसका नाइट्रेट जो है ना वो सिर्फ थोड़ा सा डिकम्पोज हुआ था, और
So
उसका
C.
so it's going to be C, it's a very reactive metal, right?
Yes.
The aluminum is extracted from its ore by electrolysis, right? An equation that represents the reaction. ये वो एल्यूमिनियम की एक्सट्रैक्शन है, ठीक है। तो क्या होता है एल्यूमिनियम की एक्सट्रैक्शन की? बिल्कुल ऊपर ही थी, एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम, राइट।
Mhm.
व्हाट हैपेंस के बॉक्साइट होता है, दैट्स योर ओर, एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड व्हिच हैज impurities like iron oxide and other metal oxides. First thing, what do? You purify the bauxite, ठीक है। उसको NaOH पे डिसॉल्व करते हो, the amphoteric Al2O3 dissolves, while the other metal oxides they don't dissolve because they are basic, ठीक है। So they're not going to dissolve in a base, लेकिन ये amphoteric था, it will dissolve। तो इस तरह फिर इनको फिल्टर आउट कर लेते हैं। तो उस रॉक में ना जो आयरन ऑक्साइड एंड अदर मेटल ऑक्साइड्स दे आर फिल्टर्ड आउट, ठीक है। और फिर आप उसका इलेक्ट्रोलिसिस करते हो। एंड रिमेंबर ही इज आस्किंग फॉर द एनोड। तो एल्यूमिनियम ऑक्साइड के इलेक्ट्रोलिसिस में यू हैव एल्यूमिनियम आयंस एंड ऑक्साइड आयंस। तो एनोड पॉजिटिव साइड पे, दिस इज योर एनोड। पॉजिटिव साइड पे इट्स योर negative oxygen ions which travel there and they lose electrons and they turn into O2 gas, ठीक है।
Yes.
और Al प्लस थ्री कैथोड पे जाता है which is the container, ठीक है। Where they gain electrons and they turn into aluminium. एनोड पे और कौन से रिएक्शंस होते हैं? ऑक्सीजन बनता है ना, तो ये जो ग्रेफाइट के इलेक्ट्रोड्स होते हैं ना, दे कैच फायर। वो जो कार्बन के इलेक्ट्रोड्स हैं ना, दे स्टार्ट बर्निंग विद ऑक्सीजन, दे स्टार्ट प्रोड्यूसिंग कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड और कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड, ठीक है। तो वो जो ऑक्सीजन गैस प्रोड्यूस होती है ना, दैट इमीडिएटली स्टार्ट्स रिएक्टिंग विद ग्रेफाइट, और फिर इसमें क्रायोलाइट डालते हैं टू रिड्यूस द मेल्टिंग पॉइंट टू 950 सेंटीग्रेड। तो उससे कॉस्ट रिड्यूस हो जाती है, रिड्यूसेस मेल्टिंग पॉइंट, कंडक्टिविटी इंक्रीज हो जाती है, मेल्ट होता है तो इट इज एबल टू कंडक्ट। तो एनोड की कौन सी इक्वेशन होगी? ऑक्सीजन वाली, राइट? इज दैट क्लियर?
Yes.
और फिर है माइल्ड स्टील कंसिस्ट मोस्टली ऑफ आयरन। माइल्ड स्टील कैन बी prevented from rusting by a process called galvanizing. Copper is not a very strong metal. अच्छा, माइल्ड स्टील वो कह रहे galvanizing, ठीक है।
Mhm.
तो galvanizing में क्या होता था? वो रस्टिंग ऑफ आयरन?
Yeah, they paint it.
नहीं, वो तो there were a lot of options, but what
Painting.
was galvanizing? ये
Galvanizing was.
मतलब एक तो था कि you paint it, आयरन को बचाना ना पानी से और ऑक्सीजन से, so that it does not rust, right? You can put oil on it, grease it, bicycle chains वगैरह, ठीक है, electroplate it, coat it with an unreactive metal, ठीक है, but these were all not possible at large scale, ठीक है। तो वो लार्ज स्केल पे क्या करते थे? शिप्स वगैरह, टावर्स, ब्रिजेस, यू galvanize it, you attach or rub a piece of more reactive metal onto it, ठीक है।
Yes.
ये सिंपल अटैच कर देते हो, लाइक जिंक और मैग्नीशियम, राइट।
Mhm.
तो जिंक ज्यादा रिएक्टिव होता है, इट्स मोर रिएक्टिव, सो द मोर रिएक्टिव लाइक्स टू लूज इलेक्ट्रॉन्स, तो वो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स लूज करके इसकी तरफ भेजना शुरू कर देता है। सो एनी ऑक्सीजन और एनी वाटर और एनी नॉन मेटल दैट वांट्स टू गेन इलेक्ट्रॉन्स, वो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स उल्टा इससे गेन करोगे, एंड आयरन विल बी सेव्ड, इट विल नॉट बी द वन दैट वुड बी रस्टिंग, ठीक है।
Yes.
तो ये गैल्वनाइजिंग है। और फिर वो कह रहा है कॉपर इज नॉट अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग मेटल हाउएवर इट इज मिक्स विद अ सुटेबली स्ट्रॉन्ग मेटल, तो वो ये दूसरी बात कर रहा है एलॉय की। तो विच स्टेटमेंट इज करेक्ट? मुझे तो ब्रास में कौन से दो एलिमेंट्स होते हैं? कॉपर के साथ क्या होता है ब्रास में?
Um, wait,
मीन टू।
in is copper. For brass, it's
Copper and zinc.
कॉपर एंड जिंक होते हैं। ब्रॉन्ज में इट्स कॉपर एंड टिन, ठीक है।
okay.
तो जब आंसर वो कॉपर corrodes very quickly when wet and brass does not, ठीक है।
Mm-hmm.
neither
B is correct.
copper is
Copper is
mixed
Yeah,
with
B.
used
zinc,
zinc to produce brass.
सही है ना? हाँ।
Yeah.
बाकी क्या है? galvanized mild steel changes it from pure metal into an alloy, नहीं, galvanizing does not change it into an alloy। वो तो सिर्फ उसको galvanizing में तो आप बस उसको कनेक्ट कर रहे हो उसके साथ, you're not changing the iron, ठीक है। when a steel object is galvanized that means it is coated with a thin layer of tin नहीं, magnesium या zinc, mostly zinc। तो फिर बी सही है। अच्छा, what is used for irrigation of crops and for drinking water for which uses क्लोरीन क्यों डालते हैं वाटर के अंदर?
Remove impurities.
Yeah.
Specifically which thing? बैक्टीरिया।
Well,
क्लोरीन
yeah,
ड्रिंक
Yeah.
to remove bacteria.
क्लोरीन जो ड्रिंकिंग वाटर के लिए यूज होता है, इरिगेशन में आपको क्लोरीनेशन करने की जरूरत नहीं, बिकॉज यू डोंट, मतलब वो तो आपके लिए होता है, यू वांट टू किल बैक्टीरिया, ठीक है।
Yes.
अच्छा, नेशनल रिसोर्स कैनॉट प्रोवाइड रॉ मटेरियल फॉर द मैथ। अमोनिया की मैन्युफैक्चर में क्या चीज चाहिए होती है? यू नीड N2 एंड यू नीड H2, ठीक है। तो
Yeah.
N2 कहाँ से आ जाता है? 78% ऑफ द एयर इज N2, सही है। H2 कहाँ से आता है? H2S ये यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है, ये हमने उस दिन एंड में किया था, justifying Haber process, Carnot process, right? So, where do you get N2? You get it from fractional distillation of liquid air. Where do you get H2? You get it from cracking of oil or electrolysis of water, ठीक है। तो cracking of oil, electrolysis of water, air, ये सब से तो मिल जाएगा, लाइमस्टोन से नहीं मिलता, ठीक है। You don't get anything from limestone. Is this clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Haber process की conditions क्या है? What are the conditions? वो इधर लिखी हुई है, सामने लिखी हुई है। Iron catalyst 450 है, 200 atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So 450, 200 atmosphere is iron catalyst, ठीक है।
Mm-hmm.
Um, ये वैसे बता दो, कार्बन साइकिल is responsible for removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, तो कौन सा सही है? Which process removes carbon dioxide?
Um, photosynthesis? Oh,
Photosynthesis।
from atmosphere.
हाँ तो ठीक
Yeah.
है, photosynthesis, ठीक है, remove।
Photosynthesis.
बाकी combustion, respiration भी produce carbon dioxide, combustion, burning produces carbon dioxide, decomposition produces carbon dioxide, जब वो decomposition of carbonates नहीं था, तो they would also produce carbon dioxide, ठीक है। ये किस जगह पे रिएक्शन होता है? ये दिस इज, ये वाला खास हुआ SiO2 वाला, ये वो स्लैग वाला है, ठीक है। दिस इज एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ आयरन। कहाँ गया एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ आयरन? एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ आयरन के अंदर व्हाई डू यू ऐड लाइमस्टोन? लाइमस्टोन इसलिए ऐड करते थे, डिकम्पोज होकर इट वुड फॉर्म कैल्शियम ऑक्साइड, सो इट कुड रिएक्ट विद सैंड, SiO2 जो इम्प्योरिटी होती है, ठीक है। तो it reacts with it or it forms calcium silicate which is slag। तो इसका तो आंसर वो है कि एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ आयरन, P इज एक्सट्रैक्शन ऑफ आयरन। ये कहाँ पे सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड? ये वो एसिडिक रेन होती थी, उसके अंदर सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड होता था, यू वुड ऐड लाइम उसको रिमूव करने के लिए। ठीक है, ये उसमें कहाँ गया वो पोल्यूटेंट्स वाला, नहीं हमने पढ़ा था, किधर पढ़ा था, ये बस वही इसमें पढ़ा था। पोल्यूटेंट्स ये सारा
Mhm.
एसिडिक पोल्यूटेंट्स, राइट?
Yes.
Sulfur dioxide produced the volcanic activity, combustion of fossil fuels like coal, etc. Sulfur dioxide was produced, right? This sulfur dioxide would eventually turn into sulfur trioxide and will then form sulfuric acid when it mixes with rain. जिससे क्या प्रॉब्लम्स होती थी? Soil would become acidic, water bodies became acidic, buildings would corrode, metalworks would corrode. तो अब क्या ऐड करते थे सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड या सल्फर ट्राइऑक्साइड को रिमूव करने के लिए? यू वुड ऐड कैल्शियम हाइड्रोक्साइड और कैल्शियम ऑक्साइड,
Mhm.
ठीक है? तो वो आप डालते थे ताकि उसको न्यूट्रलाइज कर लें। सो दैट्स हाउ यू गॉट रिड ऑफ दीज गैसेस। तो इसका जो आंसर है वो ये है कि इट्स फ्लू गैस डीसल्फराइजेशन, ठीक है? क्लियर है?
Yes.
Yes.
चलो ठीक है, ये 7 क्वेश्चन रह गए, ये फिर नेक्स्ट टाइम करते हैं, या ये होमवर्क है, ठीक है? ये मुझे भेज दो,
Yeah.
ठीक है? लास्ट वैसे नहीं, टाइम कम है। ये 7 जो क्वेश्चन है इसमें ट्राई एंड सेंड दिस इन, ठीक है?
Yes.
Yes.
चले, ओके, ठीक है।